A very good afternoon to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up to a tingling sensation like pins and needles that never subsides, or electric shocks coursing through your veins, making every step to a core. And the feeling of ants crawling under your skin, driving you to madness, or numbness that robs you of sensation, leaving you feeling disconnected from your body. So this is something which is very common presenting to you in your outpatient clinics. Patients complaining of pins and needles, burning, tingling, numb feet, or electric shock-like sensations. And this is what we term as neuropathy in medical terminology. The prevalence of neuropathy is about 2,400 per 100,000, which is about 2.4%, and it is rising with age to about 8%. And globally, leprosy, which is very, very uncommon these days, is the most common cause of peripheral neuropathy, with the highest prevalence in Southeast Asia. But in our part of the world, diabetes, which is growing like an epidemic and is the very high burden disease, it causes a lot of patients these unpleasant sensations in the form of neuropathy. And it is the most common complication of diabetes. And it is estimated to be about 30 to 50% of diabetic patients are affected by peripheral neuropathy. And it occurs in approximately half of the individuals with chronic type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. So prior exposure to neurotoxic agents, vitamin deficiencies, paraproteinemias, thyroid dysfunctions, pre-existing hereditary causes, decreased creatinine clearance or renal compromised patients, and human immune deficiency virus. These remain as some of the major risk factors and comorbidities associated with peripheral neuropathy. When we talk about diabetes, there is a global prevalence of diabetes, and then there is a regional and a national prevalence of diabetes. And unfortunately, we, Pakistan, are among the top 3 countries with the highest burden of diabetes and highest population of adults suffering from diabetes world over. And this is expected to rise by many folds in the coming few years, and estimated by 2045, 62.2 million people will be suffering from diabetes in Pakistan. At present, we have a burden of about 33 million in a population of 220 million. So this comes with a lot of complications as well. It is a major cause of cardiovascular problems, including heart attack and stroke. It causes peripheral arterial disease. It leads to loss of vision, loss of limbs. It leads to diabetic nephropathy and is the major cause of renal failure and dialysis. And it causes a lot of burden in the form of peripheral neuropathy. And diabetic neuropathy is estimated to be about 9.8% in Pakistani population, according to World Health Organization, and it is contributed by slightly more prevalence in males by 10% and 9.7% in females. We do not have a countrywide cross-sectional study on the prevalence of diabetic neuropathy in Pakistan, but there are small institutional studies which show that this is rising in number. And in one study from Lahore, 113 newly diagnosed type 2 diabetic patients were found to have a prevalence of as high as 68.5%, and those with poor glycemic control, the numbers were really high as compared to the patients who have better glycemic control. So today we are going to delve into this very important subject of complication of diabetes, which is diabetic neuropathy, and we'll delve into the world of diabetic neuropathy and exploring its causes, consequences, and the hope for a better tomorrow. So my name is Dr. Soumya. Thank you very much for having me here on this platform of Doctor's Con. I will be talking to you about the role of micronutrients and particularly methylcobalamin in diabetic neuropathy. I've been engaged by Cell Laboratories and Doctor's Con to deliver this talk. The content is purely scientific and is created by my own. and I will receive an honorarium, but there is no other financial implication from the sponsors. So we will be delving into the contents today: diabetic neuropathy, then management of diabetic neuropathy, what is the role of different agents in treating this, and particularly focusing on the role of mecobalamin in diabetic peripheral neuropathy in the shadow of research studies which are available, and then I will summarize and give you a few points to take home back. So we all know that the presence of symptoms and signs of peripheral nerve dysfunction in people with diabetes is known as diabetic neuropathy, and there are many causes which are related to it. And there are few symptoms, there are few terms which I thought would be relevant to share on this forum. One is allodynia, which is the pain which is caused by an action that is not normally painful, such as the gentle touch of someone else's hand on the skin. Then is hyperesthesia. This is an excessively painful reaction to being in contact with everyday objects such as clothes or sheets. Then is hyperpathy, which is an excessive painful response to something that normally causes only mild pain in normal subjects. And then there is hyperpathy, and the pain persists even when the cause of the pain has been taken away. And then there's a term which you very commonly come across, which is paresthesias and dysthesias, which is abnormal and unpleasant sensation in the skin that are felt as intense tingling, as pins or needle sensation. And all of these are very, very common when patients present to you with diabetic neuropathy. So diabetic neuropathy, it is a very common complication of diabetes, and it affects about 50% of the patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus. And it is diagnosed in the presence of two abnormal symptoms or signs from the list which I'm going to tell you today. So frequently, it is asymptomatic and mostly untreatable, but it requires careful examination and an assessment to detect it because it affects our quality of life. It not only causes pain and an uncomfort and an unpleasant feeling, but it can lead to severe depressive symptoms in the patients. And patients of diabetic nephropathy are 15 times more likely to have a lower limb amputation. And the foot problems are the commonest reasons for these patients for in-hospital admission. And frequently, these patients are diabetic, so they lose their life because of cardiovascular complications. The diabetes nephropathy is just not a symptom or a sign. It has a lot of cost to the patient. It leads not only to pain, loss of function, depression, loss of independence, but also loss of earning because the quality of the life of the patient is at hand. And then it has a cost to the healthcare services, and it has a cost to the society. And we all know that as the burden of diabetes is increasing worldwide, and more so in Pakistan, so is the prevalence across all age groups. And now we have number of patients of younger age group who are suffering from diabetes. And if they are halted from their routine life because of these neuropathic symptoms, they are the earning hand of the family. They are the reproductive society. So if they are suffering, obviously, there's a lot of loss to the society in the form of economics as well. Talking about the types of diabetic neuropathy. So it could be sensory motor and autonomic, which are the two main problems. The sensory motor is usually acute and reversible, and there is persistent symmetrical involvement, but it can also be focal and multifocal. The autonomic neuropathy, which is very, very underdiagnosed in our setting, presents to you with gustatory sweating, postural hypotension, gastroparesis, sometimes diabetic diarrhea or neuropathic bladder, erectile dysfunctions. There could be neuropathic edema or Charcot arthropathy associated with it. So always when patients come to you with these symptoms and there is underlying diabetes, please consider autonomic neuropathy as one of the differential diagnoses. Managing diabetic peripheral neuropathy is an uphill task because not only it requires tight glucose control, which can reverse the changes, but only when the neuropathy and diabetes is recent in onset. In long-standing diabetes, it is really very, very challenging to have a normal life again, even if you control the blood sugars, but it is too late in the course of the disease. There are certain drugs which are approved For the treatment of diabetic neuropathy, which includes the tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline and nortriptyline, serotonin reuptake inhibitors like fluoxetine, sertraline, and paroxetine, anti-epileptic drugs like gabapentin and pregabalin, and methylcobalamin, which exerts neuroprotective effects and regenerates the myelin sheath. So today I will be focusing on vitamin B12 and how its deficiency leads to worsening of diabetic neuropathy. So vitamin B12 deficiency can present with neurological manifestations, which include subacute combined degeneration of spinal cord, peripheral neuropathy, optic neuropathy, ataxia, cognitive disturbances, and even mood changes. And in addition to the commonly known B12 deficiency issue, which is megaloblastic anemia. And how do you diagnose it? You can get a serum vitamin B12 levels. Previously, we used to do a Schilling test as well. You must recall from your old school books that we used to read about Schilling tests. But now, excuse me. Now there are certain limitations, so we do not do it routinely. It has a high cost, the facility is not available everywhere, and there's low awareness and concern, so it is not done as a routine test. The vitamin B12 level has traditionally been shown, B12 deficiency has traditionally been based on low serum B12 levels, which are less than 200 picograms per ml. But a more sensitive and a cheaper method is to check for homocysteine levels, which are increased early in the B12 deficiency and can be used to diagnose the B12 deficiency. There are certain associated conditions which you can come across along with neuropathy and B12 deficiency, which include the malaise, fatigue, exhaustion, and generalized weakness feeling in the patients. And this is because B12 is the energy vitamin. And there are numerous processes which are crucial for energy production, which have a role of vitamin B12 in them. So it can improve the body's performance. And obviously, if it is deficient, the patient has a feeling of malaise and weakness. Carpal tunnel syndrome, wrist drop, and Bell's palsy are some of the nerve palsies which can occur because of B12 deficiency. Apart from that, a spondylosis, which is a degenerative process of the joints of the spinal vertebra, it can also cause pain, paresthesias, muscle weakness in the limbs, sciatica. So dorsopathy and neuropathy can coexist as well. Whenever we are treating patients with diabetes, still, first-line agent which we use is metformin, which is considered as gold standard for type 2 diabetic patients. And we all know that it is a part of prescription of routinely almost all diabetic patients, especially those who are newly diagnosed. And there is an emerging theory on the metformin-induced vitamin B12 deficiency. Vitamin B12 is involved both in methylmalonyl-CoA mutase and methionine synthase intracellular pathways. And vitamin B12, if it is deficient, it interferes with these pathways and causes increased levels of methylmalonic acid and homocysteine, which are considered as biochemical indicators of metabolic vitamin B12 deficiency. So there are a number of studies, both international and national, on the role of metformin-induced vitamin B12 deficiency and the presence of diabetic neuropathy. So this is a study from Karachi, which is a multi-center study in which they have linked the vitamin B12 deficiency in type 2 diabetes with taking of metformin. And this study is another study which is also shows that the clinical and neurophysiological effects of methylcobalamin on patients with diabetic neuropathy. This was a double-blind study, and the active group showed statistically improvement in the somatic and autonomic symptoms with regression of signs of diabetic neuropathy when methylcobalamin was replenished in these diabetic neuropathic patients of type 2 diabetes. So there are a number of studies, but keeping in view the constraints of time, I'm just quoting few, one international and national over here, but there is a long list of studies, and it's a very hot topic that drug-induced B12 deficiency can also lead to neuropathic symptoms. So what are the treatment options? Obviously, if something is deficient, we need to replace it. So if vitamin B12 deficiency coexists with folate deficiency, then B12 should be replaced first to prevent subacute combined degeneration of cord. And guidelines from the British Society for Hematology recommends that it is better to give in the form of injections in patients without neurological deficits. If neurological deficits are present, injections should be given every other day and up to 3 weeks until no further improvement is noted. And there's a Cochrane review which was published in 2005, which involved 108 patients with B12 deficiency. And they thought that the high dose oral replacement was as effective as parenteral administration for correcting anemia and neurological symptoms. So there's a lot of debate whether oral or parenteral route is better in treating these diabetic neuropathic patients. And we all know that routes of drug administration are determined by not only the choice of the patient and choice of physician, but also by the physical characteristics of the drug, at the speed at which the drug is absorbed, need to bypass the hepatic metabolism. And we also want to achieve a high concentration at a particular site. We need to give the accurate dose to the patient, and also why the patient can take orally or the parenteral route is better. So we know that it can be, drugs can be given topically, parenterally, enterally. And then there's a first pass metabolism as well, which is also involved in some of the drugs, in which there is hepatic metabolism through which the drugs have to pass. So the sublingual and buccal route, they have also emerged as new regular routes of administration because they bypass the first hepatic pass metabolisms. And the sublingual mecobalamin is now also available. It avoids the first pass metabolism. It avoids the acid or enzymatic metabolism. There is permeation, which is very fast as compared to other routes. It has a good patient compliance as compared to parenteral therapies. It is easily administered and it can be removed if there is toxicity going on. And also it is very easy to administer in those patients who are unconscious or who are difficult to treat. But the disadvantages of oral and sublingual preparations are also there. So they come with a taste, they can be irritant to mucosa, they can have a noxious smell. They are not for children because they cannot take it very efficiently. They could be eating and drinking difficulty with the patient. There could be salivary erosions, and drugs, some of the drugs, they are unstable at oral pH 6.5 to 7. So there are some studies which show that if this vitamin B12 is given sublingually, it provides quick absorption and rapid action versus if it is given orally. So rapid absorption, high blood levels, and rapid onset of action makes it a superior drug as compared to the oral drug which we can give. And studies have shown that sublingual route has given 16% better vitamin B12 levels as compared to the oral use. It is convenient, it is easy to use, there is good adherence, and there is rapid absorption through capillaries, and it shows better vitamin B12 levels. But B12, we all knew that it helps in the diabetic neuropathic symptoms, and it is part of many guidelines to treat the neuropathy. But if we add on something which will add value to our treatment, and that is L-methylfolate, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, along with methylcobalamin, and that too methylcobalamin in a higher doses. So this is a new molecule which has come up in the market. It has B12, B6, and B9, and they break the homocysteine to create other chemicals which our body needs. And L-methylfolate, which is vitamin B9, it is the fully methylated, highly absorbable, and body-ready form of folic acid, which offers about 1.8 times higher blood levels than the started folic acid. If you remember, I told you in the beginning that B12 and folic acid deficiency can be combined, and you need to replace the folic acid as well when you are replacing the B12 deficiency. So the administration of L-methylfolate has been associated with increased levels of nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, and it increases the blood flow to the peripheral nerve tissues, adding on to the action of methylcobalamin. Similarly, vitamin B6, which is pyridoxal 5-phosphate, it is the active form of vitamin B6. It converts homocysteine into cysteine, which is further converted into glutathione, which is the master antioxidant and used in many conditions, including the dermatological practices as well. Apart from that, the gold methylcobalamin B12, जिसे हम ताकत का टीका कहते हैं और मरीजों की फरमाइश होती है कि हमें लगा दें. So B12 has been very rightly said as the energy vitamin because it boosts your energy, and it is the neurologically active form of the B12. And along with B6 and folate, it is very, very helpful in lowering the hyperhomocysteine levels and which leads to the oxidative stress and nerve degeneration. And this combination has shown excellent results. Some of the studies and research which have shown its benefits, they are quoted here. I can give you the details if you require. There are multiple multi-center randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trials which have shown that this combination works wonders in diabetic neuropathy. So my message today would be, whenever you are replacing B12 in B12 deficient patients, whether they are coming to you with vitamin B12 induced diabetic neuropathy and other causes, consider giving it in the form of B6 and B9 and folate as well, because it may help the overall energy and the pathways which are used in the energy production and oxidative stress. This is a combination which is available with mecobalamin 2 milligram as compared to the regular mecobalamin, which is 500 milligram. It comes with the convenience of once daily doses with cost effectiveness. This is the molecule. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you very much.